we took our coffee cart model, built a brick and mortar, have served coffee all over the country, and have decided that we're gonna grow our company through franchising. And we don't know what we don't know yet. And so I'm gonna be using this channel simply as a means to process out loud some of the ways that we are choosing to grow our business, or some of the experiments that we're attempting. And hopefully you can learn something or just enjoy the content as we make probably a lot of mistakes and stumble our way through this. Welcome home to you, new entrepreneur who is building the plane as you fly it. We are cheering you on. We are absolutely cheering you on. A little bit about me and my husband. We are worship pastors at our local church. We love the Lord. And so we're a faith-based Christian company that's helping entrepreneurs affordably get started in business ownership through coffee carts. And so our story is that we are in full-time ministry, and we always have dreamed that full-time ministry would never be like a career or a means of income for us, because it's really not sustainable and like a long-term plan, but that ministry would always be who we are and what we do as followers of Jesus. But as far as our livelihood, my husband has loved coffee forever. He's managed many coffee shops, and it wasn't until 2019 when we had our son, his name is Bear, when we had our son, that we had this moment. And my husband had been managing a coffee shop. He didn't get paternity leave. I just remember being a little frustrated by that. Like I just started having this like wish of like, I wish that we could control our time a little bit differently. Like our schedule is, we have this precious thing, this precious boy, and it just feels like we're losing our time with him because we don't have a choice. That was kind of the very beginning of feeling like maybe one day we would be business owners. And then COVID happened. Everyone's job was threatened. And for whatever reason, my husband, he's a manager, he's a barista, but his job was considered essential during COVID. Like there were people that couldn't work at all, like construction workers or whatever. Like there were some people that couldn't work at all. They weren't essential. And yet somehow in America, coffee stayed essential. And if that doesn't tell you that the coffee industry is booming, I don't know what does. But anyway, his job was considered essential. So he did get to keep his job. I also kept my job, but I just remember the feeling of there being like, we don't know what tomorrow looks like. We might not have jobs in the future. And that was the start too of like, okay, God, what can we do to start building something? And when I think about the fact that God is a creator and he created us in his image, he is honored and he is glorified when we are also creating things, especially, or maybe most importantly, for him to breathe on. And so we started dreaming. And I specifically remember at this time at the church, I was helping serve our missionaries. If you don't know what a missionary is, what they are is people who have committed to following Jesus and teaching other people who have never heard about Jesus, teaching them about the gospel and giving out Bibles and planting churches and serving people in unreached areas. And many of them end up going to these countries that they're traveling to on like business visas. So for example, some of them would go and open up like a CrossFit gym, or they would go and open up a cafe or things like that. And that would be the way that they meet people and start building community so that they could share the gospel kind of like secretly, because many of these places are not allowed to share and proclaim Jesus. And so they would open up these businesses and they'd secretly be like underground churches. And I remember telling my husband, like, with COVID, people weren't meeting in buildings anymore and nothing was certain. I just said, what if we started a coffee company because we could be the underground church option? Like, what if we were missionaries to America and like started a coffee company that would allow us to interact with people and still be able to be bold in our faith and to be full of joy and to make lifelong friends and to, really experience what we see in Acts 2, which is community with people. And we were sitting down together and we just said, let's just do it. The cost of a coffee cart starts at around $35,000. It's about the price of a car payment. Like we will figure it out. My husband was making, barista money. And so we kind of were like, this is the time in our lives to take a lateral move. And it's better now to take a move where it's easier to leave his job and try to make up that income than if he was to climb the ladder somewhere, then we'd eventually in the future have to take a pay cut. And so we were thinking through all of this stuff, and then we decided, let's just take the leap. I didn't know how to get $35,000. I knew that we had costed everything out. We had just begun the plan of having a coffee cart. I Googled, how do you get $35,000, and then I applied for a personal loan. It was at 25% interest, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then I clicked submit. I didn't even know that it was like actually me applying for a personal loan. Like I just thought I was applying for like more information or inquiring about more information. And then the next morning we woke up with $35,000 in our bank account. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have a monthly payment. Oh my gosh, we have the cash to buy this coffee cart. We need to do it. And so kind of naively, we launched our coffee cart business and we LLC'd in May. And within 12 weeks, we had opened up a coffee cart and we had parked it somewhere during the day to try to get, some kind of regular traffic. And then we would move that coffee cart to do events. And we just thought, if we can get like weddings or baby showers, like we could bring, we'll bring the coffee shop to you. And we started dreaming that way. And then very quickly, thank God, because of our community and just the connections that we've made, we started being booked more than our one cart could handle. And so in a matter of months, we went from having one coffee cart to having 3 coffee carts. And now we were serving all the time. Then we wanted to dream about building, a bigger cafe, like a brick and mortar that would be the hub of Quigley Coffee. And it was absolutely a different type of faith leap. We didn't have the funds to do it. Again, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, God, if it's your will, it's your bill. And we decided to take the leap and signed a lease before we knew how we were going to pay for it, applied for an SBA loan, and were able to slowly get that cafe open. It took about 14 months, and it's been so fun to have our friends and have a place that's, ours that we've been able to steward. And now we have a cafe that's operating on its own as a functioning restaurant. And then we have all of our coffee carts that are still very much actively doing what they do, which is doing catering events and different things like that. Over a year ago, we had this realization that we need to decide how we want to grow. And one thing about me is I'm an avid researcher. And so I absolutely feel like one of my specialties is like throw your nets in every direction and just see where the fish are, like just see what fish catch, which can be exhausting. But I just felt like, let's see what all of our options are. Like what does growth for Quigley Coffee look like? Or even what does an exit plan for Quigley Coffee look like? Like what would we feel satisfied with if we built something and then decided, to do something else in the future? And so we did. We got business valuations. We started seeing like, okay, if we sold tomorrow, what could we get if we sold? Okay, that's one option that we could do. The second option is that we decide to go more cafes. We want more locations like all over Florida, or do we want to open one up in another state in like an A-list location? And how do we get funding for that? And so we start looking into more cafes and figuring out the financials for what would be necessary to do that. And then we started thinking about our catering carts, and we're like, how could we grow our catering carts? Because when you look at profit margins, restaurant margins are normally anywhere between 3 and 5%, which is very minimal. And it's a lot of work for that 3 to 5% versus our catering carts, because there's no overhead and there's no regular payroll. You contract out baristas and things like that. Our catering margins are closer between 60 and 80%, depending on how we're paying people, like if we're doing it ourselves or if we're paying baristas. And those margins are so much better. And so financially, we're looking at, all of our options as a business. And then we basically land and say, if we're going to grow this thing, we need to grow what we know works. And what we know works are the coffee carts. That's how we started. And it's been the most consistent over the last 6 years. And so I feel a little bit like we've tried everything. We've tried the brick and mortar, we've tried pop-up events, we've tried hospitality, we've tried cafes, we've tried traveling America with coffee carts and clients. We've done all of it. And now we have a healthy, barometer to say, okay, of all the things that we've tried, this one makes the most sense. And so we decided to become franchisors. And instead of doing Quigley Coffee Company and focusing on just our cafes, we became Quigley Coffee Company, and we're franchising coffee carts, helping people launch and book the right clientele so that they could bring in supplemental income or hopefully get to a place where it's income replacement for their families like we were able to. And now we are brand new to this. And when we said, yeah, let's become franchisors, we had no idea what that would mean. And so we said, all right, it can't be that hard, becoming franchisors, which means that you have the legal ability to replicate your business model to other entrepreneurs who are then going to pay you for your training and consulting of how to run their company. And then you get a portion of royalties and brand development fees and things like that. But they actually own their businesses under your brand. And, or I should say, they more so have a license to operate your brand in it for a certain amount of time. So then you look up, how much does it cost to franchise? and it'll tell you it costs anywhere from like 22 grand to like $150,000 to franchise. And so the franchise process is extensive. It takes months to prepare your operations manuals, which can cost anywhere from like $3,000 to $25,000 or more. These are legal documents that your franchisees, the people who are going to be buying your business, it's the 250-page document that they use that have all of the information in regards to how to operate their business. That document costs, anywhere from $3,000 to $25,000. And that gap is because the $3,000 option is for you to figure out how to do it on your own. And the $25,000 option is for somebody else to come in and tell you, here's exactly what you need to get this done right. And at first I was like, okay, I'll do it myself. And then I looked at the $3,000 option and I was like, I don't have the knowledge to fill 170 pages of information that has the legal requirements of everything somebody needs to know to operate a business. It goes way deeper than just like, here's how you operate Quigley Coffee. You have to lay the foundational groundwork of like, here's everything you need to know about business ownership in America and in your state, etc. And so it's really, really specific, and I didn't want to get that wrong. So we ended up going the more expensive route to help make sure that somebody, really sets us up for success. Then you have to set up your FDD, which is your franchise disclosure document. And that's basically working with lawyers to help create the actual structure of your franchise company. And then you have to create a holding company and a franchising company, because now our cafe is not just the only LLC that's operating. Our cafe is specifically for that brick and mortar. Our catering company is specifically for the services that we offer as mobile espresso carts. Now we need a franchising company that's a new entity that's going to be operating as the company to receive the royalty payments, as well as handle all like the marketing and the brand development and the training. Everything that happens, it's in a totally different entity. So just the building out of becoming a franchisor was so much more, I think, than we anticipated. And we started that process in March of last year, and in March of 2025, and we officially issued in October of 2025. And that cost was a little over $75,000 for us. And that was because we did it still as affordably as possible. And it was $75,000 to get started. And now we are in a place where we are looking and beginning our franchisor process and saying, okay, this is our model. This is what we absolutely feel the most confident in, and what we have the most experience in. Now we need to begin really helping other people get started in business ownership. And when we chose this model, we did it for two reasons. We did it for a lot of reasons. One is that we don't have the calendar margin to take on more events. Like, we are stretched thin. I don't know if you can see this calendar over here, but it's like every single day has some kind of event, and like these long ones are like multiple events that are happening, and we don't even have, like, that doesn't even include the cafe, and that doesn't include like our family calendar or things like that. Like, we have hit our physical limit on what we can do. But we know that working with people who are wired like us and who are hungry like us, that they can have the same success that we've had in coffee cart ownership. And it's really, really not that difficult to begin your own coffee cart company. But what people always say is that it's not about a lack of knowledge, it's really about a lack of wisdom, because knowledge is having information, wisdom is knowing what to do with it. And so we're looking for business owners who are like us, can take this knowledge and then run with it, because they're wired to love people well, and because they want to serve people well, and because they're passionate about coffee, but they're passionate about, really building community over coffee and serving people, because we love people. And it's a simple, practical way to share the gospel with people. We've had so many conversations over coffee, so many spiritual conversations over coffee. And we just are so excited about the potential in this, and building more Quigley Coffee Carts and helping launch entrepreneurs who want to get started in business ownership. And it's a lot of people have dreams of starting a restaurant one day, or owning a retail store one day, but the truth is that the starting costs for those things are just beyond what most people are readily able to access. And so we specifically, like, if we really wanted to sell a massive product, we could just do the cafe route and require that people have a capital, like they could be ready to have capital of $300,000, $500,000 to open a restaurant, and then we'd get regular royalties from their sales and all that stuff. But we remember, Like we were just there 6 years ago. We remember what it felt like to want to start a business without any money. And so even in this offering of why we chose to franchise, it's not just because we are trying to have a way to grow Quigley Coffee Company, though yes, that's one of the practical benefits. Really, our heart behind wanting to do this model is that we get to help other people who are in the same place that we were have a really practical plug and play business that can really bring them income, and that allows them flexibility with their kids like it did for us, and that helps them dream of how to, grow in business ownership with hiring, with having multiple territories, with having multiple cart businesses, etc. And so we're really excited about the opportunities that we have with people that are coming up. And we're also very aware that we're new to this. And while we are new to franchising, we're not new to team building, and we're definitely not new to coffee. And so we're excited about blending all of these communities together. And we have just signed our first franchisee, and we are so excited. Yeah, in this channel, you're gonna watch us build a franchise company. And if this type of business content interests you, or if you just want to follow along with our story, make sure that you like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all the things of Quigley Coffee and all the ways that we're growing and building, and all the mistakes that we're making along the way in our franchise company. So thank you for watching. If there's anything that you're praying for, you want us to pray for, I'd love to pray for your business. You can type in the comments below, and we will make sure to add it to our regular prayer list, and can't wait to share more. Gosh, I feel like such a boomer. No offense to boomers.